So Dan, we're down. It's 5:25 a.m. Queensland time, and we're getting on a 6:05 flight to head down to Sydney, and then we're just going to get an Uber down to Cronulla, where we were last weekend for the Nutri-Grain Surf Lifesaving Series. And through the week, the opportunity arose to catch up with Macca, Chris McCormack, an iconic legend of the world of triathlon, who I ran into down at the Nutri-Grain Surf Lifesaving Series. And we're going to do a podcast, so catch up with Macca for a podcast for an upcoming episode. I think it'll be episode 48 with the Physical Performance Show. So it'll be great to catch up with Macca. His accolades are extensive. Chris is the 1997 World Triathlon Champion, ITU, Olympic Distance World Series Champion that year as well. Then he went on in 2007 and 2007 and 10, I think it was, to win the Hawaii Ironman Triathlon Championship in impressive races. He did that off the back of several years. I think it was about 5 years where he battled away, had a few DNFs, and then he came in second in a bit of a legendary finish with Norman Statler. So Chris these days has retired from triathlon, but racing that is, but he's still very much a linchpin of the world triathlon scene. So he's a prolific figure and full of energy and zest. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So mate, we're down there and then we're back on the coast at 1:25. So it's a whirlwind little trip, mate. It's going to be fun. We are en route to Macca's place down at Cronulla. So we just landed in Sydney, a bit wet down here. We still our Uber driver couldn't quite believe that we're running down here just for a few hours. We're literally down here for 2 or 3 hours and then back to the Gold Coast. So all excited, researched up. Macca's in my head, so I reckon it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Mate, Macca's episode will be episode number 48. So we are almost a year into it, and it's been a fun journey from the very first interview, which was Ali Day, Surf Lifesaving Champ. So Ali was the first guest, and now we're up to episode 48 and on the eve of a year anniversary, and it's been a whole lot of fun to see just how well it's been received. So I don't take for granted that people that listen put it in their ears and spend an hour with the program every week, and we're just on 50,000 just shy of 50,000 downloads now. It's funny, when I started the podcast, the idea for it, I thought, it'd be great if a couple of hundred people listen to each episode. So when you see the downloads that these episodes are now achieving, and it's an exponential growth in listenership, it's quite fun. And I guess the principle here as well is to start. I wasn't completely clear on where the program would go, other than knowing that I spend, in my work as a physiotherapist, I spend my whole week interviewing people really about what they're up to, where they're going, how I can help. And so talking to people and getting inside their world is something that, one, I guess I'm well trained in through my profession, but two, I actually really enjoy. And for me, I live my life at the intersection of maximising potential and optimising physical function. So the podcast is a beautiful blend of both of those areas of my interest and strength. So this will be fun. Arguably one of the bigger names we've had on the podcast to date. So Chris McCormack, we're nearly there.
I can open all the doors if they're all right.
But mate, you have... So Macca, growing up, what did youth look like?
I grew up, we moved, my father was a waterside worker, uneducated, 3 boys, an older brother and a younger brother. I'm the middle child, and he was determined his boys would be educated. He was a very, very hard worker. He's amazing. My dad's my hero. He was the hardest working guy I've ever known, and I think he instilled that discipline into all his boys. And sport was something we did on the weekend. He was all about education. So we would go to school. My mother was a school teacher, and he was determined to make sure that we had what he did. So, I think it was through high school I grew up surfing. We grew up on the beaches a bit south of here, and back in those days in surfing, you used to have priority. You used to have to paddle out around a buoy, and you had priority in the waves. And I used to always lose priority as a kid. So my father thought, well, you're not fit enough. We were very we weren't very, it wasn't, we didn't really know much, so we just started running. My dad said, let's start running. And I found that I was a really good runner. I used to just run around the block, had my KT 26s on, and then through school I started winning everything at running. And it was just by chance we fell into this sport. Just naturally I was good at it. And, by year 8 and 9 I was winning state championships. Year 9 I won my first national championships as a kid. And at that time there was a lot of hype around running. You had Steve Monaghetti as a big champion in the country. You had a lot of people coming through. And so I was approached a lot by the AIS to join their program. And my father was adamant, no way. You run on the weekends, school, you're going to university, you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor,
How old were you at this stage, mate?
Probably 15, 16. And, you're starting to look at those things. Year 10's coming up. You can leave school at year 10, as you know, and you're 11 and 12, and starting to plan what we're going to do. And I had aspirations of travelling and being a runner and going to the Olympics. I'd watched the 84 Olympics on television. Yeah. 88 had come around with Seoul, and you had Debbie Flintoff-King winning gold medals. And so you were sort of exposed to, for myself, that sort of differing sports outside of cricket and rugby league were the Olympics. And I remember vividly Bruce McAvaney on television commentating all these running events and going, that is me, I can go to the Olympics, I'm going to be like Robert De Castella. And by chance, one day, I think it was 1987 was the first one I ever watched. So I was, 15. And then again in 89, I watched again, this Hawaiian Ironman Triathlon came on television on Wide Water Sports. And because I was a surfer and, anything to do with Hawaii, I used to put the VHS tape in and tape, anything, running, surfing. Yep. And this Hawaii thing came on television. So I remember vividly sitting in the lounge room with my mother and my brothers and saying, I could do this. And both my brothers laughing at me. Right? And that was sort of the first time I was ever exposed to triathlon. A Swiss guy, Olivier Hufschmidt, who ended up passing away a few years later. I remember running, and it was the first time ever I'd had a motorbike with a TV camera in front. I'm like, wow, I'm on television. And Olivia dropped me on the run, and I remember coming into the straight, and it was 2-lap run, and you used to have to wear these bands to see you cross the lap. So I knew Olivia had the race won, and I was coming in, and there was thousands of people in Manchester, and I got caught away with it, and I remember seeing a whole bunch of girls and people, and I was high-fiving everybody. I was looking over my shoulder, and I didn't see the two guys behind me. I didn't think they had a wristband, and I went from second to fourth in the space of 50 metres because I was showboating, as Triathlon Australia called it. And that's still a story that they tell all the juniors. You always run to the finish line because this idiot junior from the 90s blew a silver medal, a podium, by celebrating too early.
With the girls.
Yeah, it was high five. Yeah.
Macca, fun question. Fun question and a serious one. If you could have dinner with 3 people, living or past, who'd be at that dinner table and why?
Living or past, I'd like to have dinner with Ali. I know probably everyone says that, but he's definitely a guy that I admire a lot. I'd love to. I'd have dinner with my mum again, and one more. Ali. Who else have I really looked up to? I'd love to, and I have had it. And I enjoyed his company, but I'd love to have a dinner with Steve Monaghetti. Again, he's just and there's better people out there, but Ali, for particular reasons on how he shaped his life and how he lived through an era where he was more than just a sports star, he was everything, the biggest celebrity on the planet, how you live through that. I'm not really into politics, so I'm not really interested in politicians. My mum, because I'd just give anything to have one more dinner with her, and Steve Monaghetti, because I just used to watch him on television, and he did so much for me personally, and as a just wanting to emulate him in every way, that I just love to have him there. When the pain comes, it's confirmation that you're doing the right thing. So how do you train someone to do that? To get back to the question, first you need to start with who you are when you're under stress, right? And so everyone wants to know the answer. What are you thinking about when you're suffering? Well, what are you thinking about? That's where you start. Understand what type of personality you are, because some people think, I hate this, I don't want to do it. Most of us tend to go to a negative place. Then we need to change those thought patterns to confirmations. So for me, when I got uncomfortable, she said, the first thing we're going to do is confirm that this is where we're supposed to be. This is where great things happen. So confirmation, I'd never done that before. I just somehow get uncomfortable and start focusing on it. So she said the first thing you do is smile, and we go from there. And then we created these folders in my head, take myself to places where I'd had great races or great sessions. She said, go through these processes that you only need to unpack for probably 3 or 4 minutes within a race, and that storm goes away and it'll come back again. But it changed my life.
What year was that, Chris?
2006.
So this was just before 2007. Yeah. So with some of those thoughts
changed my life.
2007.
Yes, changed my life without question. Understanding who you are when things are going. So a good test when you go to the track. Ask yourself next track session you do when you're uncomfortable what you're thinking about, and 99% of people go, I don't know. Well, that's what you're actually training for. Yeah. Everything else is fluff. Yeah. When you're running good, that's easy, right? No, everyone feels great there. I'm the most positive person in the world. And what I realised, I was the most negative person when the chips came down. And that's basically like playing at the casino. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. If you go the right direction, she's like, we need to own and control that as much as we possibly can and create processes to fix it.
So Dennis, we are heading back to the airport, domestic airport, Jetstar, 1:05 p.m. flight. Gets us back to the Gold Coast at like 1:25 p.m. I think. So but we had a good morning. Enjoyed catching up with Macca and hearing all the triathlon stories. As a teenager growing up, he was certainly one of the triathletes that was a great prominence when I was coming through the junior ranks, and so to sit, catch up on a session like that today is one professionally a whole lot of fun, and hopefully great value for the Physical Performance Show listeners in terms of insights into physical best performance. But personally, it's these beautiful little milestones in life and your career where people you admire then get to catch up with, and the commonality is everyone's just doing life and trying to figure it out themselves and the journey. And I really loved how openly Macca shared around his, everything from his parents, his dad's direction for him as a young guy through to his mum's, passing, and then some of the things he looks back on and realizes, he said things through his younger years that he may have edited if he was to talk them now. And through to the difference he's now wanting to leave in the sport with the birth of the Super League. So guys, it's been a great morning, and home to see the girls. Best thing is it's in half a day. So yeah, it's been a great morning. Looking forward to getting home.